Hello, Taurus. Welcome to the Plaid Sheep Oracle. It's taken me a little bit to do this reading. I didn't feel well for a couple of days, and then I thought I was going to do Libra, but that just didn't want to come through. I've been choosing a reading from my year with Rilke, and nothing really wanted to come through for Libra. But you have come through, Taurus. I mean for these readings to be timeless. Whenever you find it, you find it. And there'll be something for you that's resonant, informative. But they are also readings done at a very particular moment in time. Now, when we are in this energetic space and we're right on the brink of serious change, right? Major change. And I think for many of us, it's an internal one. Although there may be external consequences, right? As within, so without. On March 21st, there is a new moon in Aries, just hours after the sun moves into Aries, at 0 degrees, and I think 50 minutes. And then at the end of the Aries season on April 20th, there is another Aries new moon at 29 degrees, 50 arc seconds. And just 4 hours later, the sun moves into Taurus. So, beginnings emphasized the move of the sun into Aries is often thought of as the astrological new year. And I think that it used to be the new year before it was January 1st. And for some people, even the astrological new year doesn't really begin until that new moon in Aries. And this time, it's happening right at the beginning of Aries season. And Aries is hot. Jupiter is in Aries now. He's been conjunct Chiron and Vesta, looking to create an expansive vision to devote himself to, an expansive vision of healing. And he will be, Jupiter, later this year, not too much later, moving into Taurus. And he will stay there. When he retrogrades, he does not retrograde back into Aries. When he moves into Taurus, he's there permanently for a year or so. So there are changes happening, I think, for all of us currently, and actually yesterday and today, as I'm filming this, there's a conjunction between Neptune and the Sun and Mercury. Both Neptune and Mercury, Kazimi, right? That means in the heart of the sun. And that is a possibility of revelation, especially spiritual and internal revelation. All those Neptunian things, maybe a revelation of a dream that you didn't know you had. And that's for all of us. And Saturn, right, has moved into Pisces. So now he is sextiling you, right? He's been squaring you since the end of 2020. And now that pressure kind of releases and becomes, rather than a kind of slightly adversarial, or at least slightly conflicting thing, to working together. So the reading that came out for you, Taurus, from a date in Taurus, May 10th, gravity, center, how from all things you gather yourself. Even from those that fly, you take yourself back. Center, strongest one. Those who stand can feel how gravity plunges through them like a drink through thirst. Yet from the sleeper, gravity drifts like rain from unhurried clouds. So how is that for you, Taurus? That you are, right? That's part of your gift. And I have a lot of Taurus energy myself, so I know that it can feel heavy, this fixed earth. And there's a lot of sort of, I don't know, I don't want to call them uncomplimentary, but you know, steady, reliable, capable, also sometimes stubborn. Right? These are not really very exciting adjectives. Right? The earth signs kind of don't get the exciting adjectives, like spiritual or mystical. But I would argue the Taurus is mystical. I think all signs have their magical, mystical, ethereal aspect. And you know, the moon is exalted in Taurus. She is a favored guest in Venus's house. And she appears here repeatedly in your reading. We begin with this Knight of Wands, and I love this knight. He's romantic. I'm a romantic. And maybe you are as well. I think sometimes that hides in Taurus, right? Taurus can have this, can be steady. But, you know, we're also the garden, right? Filled with flowers, right? We're the space where, you know, the roses and the jasmine grow. Right? It's in gardens that romantic scenes happen. And the romantic period, right? It had a lot to do, right? Nature was at the heart of the romantic movement. And all those poets, Keats, Shelley, Byron. The mysticism of the garden and of nature. And so there's this Four of Wands, which is, right, is structure and steadiness. But here is also kind of romantic, right? These two tree people leaning in towards one another. Right? That nature, and even trees and stones and other things that we think of as stationary aren't really. There's movement and life. There's will and awareness, and maybe even yearning for something in nature, as there is in you, Taurus. And here in this lesson card, not a lesson, but childhood. Right? We get the maiden next. And then even the Six of Pentacles, right, which has this kind of teaching aspect in this deck. Right? These women down here are receiving a teaching, really, I think. Not, you know, that's what this woman is giving generously of her knowledge and her wisdom. So I think you've been learning things, Taurus, in these years, however long. You've been kind of on this spiritual path. And that's, right, it's a cliche, isn't it, right? This spiritual path. But, right, it's a cliche for a reason. It's a real thing. And I think it happens, you know, to us at different ages and different stages, depending on who we are and what we were exposed to, what our souls intended when they picked these bodies. But for many of us, right, the spiritual journey begins later, you know, after that first Saturn return. You begin to ask questions at that point. Like, what am I doing? And why am I doing this? What else is there? And I think you've been asking these things for a long time. Looking inwardly. And now it is beginning to make more sense. It is beginning to come together. You are gaining clarity. You know, the moon in the tarot is often about confusion, right? Mystery. Right? It can even mean mental disturbance, right? Not being able to see clearly. But I think that we have to pass through this space. We have to pass through this space when we are confused, because the reality of the universe is not generally what most of us are told when we're little, right? What we learn here living in the modern world. So we have to pass through this space, and then we can kind of move into the next phase. Right, into a new space. And this still seems like the moon overhead, right? It has some of the shadowy things that the moon has. It doesn't really feel like the sun to me. I don't think the artist meant it as the sun, although I don't know. But it's bright, right? You can really see. And I think once you begin to look at things with this mystical eye, things are revealed. Truths, information, the next step forward. And then we have the moon again, and underneath her is the world. So the moon revealing this new space that we're all headed into. At least those of us here. Engaged in this work. We're moving into these new timelines, these new realities, this new space, evolved, metamorphosed, mutated spaces. Mutated selves. Revealed selves. And this messenger of water, right? And I right, this is you, Taurus, and you're receiving information. And I think, right, that it's not, you know, this is just a little wee messenger, right? I don't think it's something, you know, enormous that's arriving. I think the truth often comes quietly. That it just shows up because we have prepared the way. And then we get this Page of Earth. I love him. He's like, right, he's like eternal childhood, but not, you know, he's kind of a child who has wisdom, right? So he's retained that wonder, that joy, looking at things with love and openness, but he's also wise, right? He's not childish. He's learned lessons, and now he's here to guide you. He's been there, not waiting exactly, but ready. And the little poem that I read talks about sleepers not being held down by gravity. And I think that's true. I think that when we go into sleep, we are, right, we're more free from all of that stuff that we learned about the material world. Our souls and minds and hearts can go traveling. And I think that's sort of what this is about, right? Is this sleeping space. But it's twofold. One is the sleeping space of love, right here with this heart. But it is also the sleeping space that we were in right before we began this journey. Right? So it's kind of a twofold trickster card, as it should be. It's the devil in this deck, temptation. So the two sides of sleep, but I think that you're right, you've woken up, Taurus. You have become willing to see perhaps what's been hidden in the cave. Right? I always see this, character as having wandered into this cave, and she finds this magical stars. So you found something, and I think it's something that you didn't expect. Because we may set out on these spiritual journeys and we have some sort of expectation. We've read books, we've, maybe listened to other people's experiences. And so we have some sort of expectation of what it'll be like. But I think it's not what you expected. And I think that you are learning, one of the things that you're learning is to really appreciate yourself. To appreciate that steadiness, that gravity that you have, right? What is the line? Like a drink through thirst. Right? That steadiness is necessary for all of us. That is a gift that you give yourself and other people. I'm a Terry Pratchett fan. And in one of his books, there's a character who, she's good in an emergency. She's got a good personality, right? She sees things as they really are. And she doesn't want to be this way, right? She wants to be like a different character who's very romantic and sparkly. But in fact, she doesn't need any of that, right? That being good in an emergency, that seeing things as they really are, can lead to magic, right? It allows her, in fact, to be a witch. The witches in Terry Pratchett's world really see things as they are. Right? They're the people that you go to when you're in trouble. Right? They hold sacred and secret and magical knowledge. And they can do that because they're grounded. So we have here the 10 of Cups. And again, there's this moon phase. And right underneath it is the 10 of Pentacles. So right, this is like the halves of being. That we can be steady and grounded, and we can be mystical and magical and fluid. We don't have to choose. You don't have to choose, Taurus. You don't have to sacrifice stability in order to be magical, right? I mean, here's the magician showing up. Here you are, right? In this pose, right? He stands on rock. And traditionally he uses, right, all of the elements to create his magic. And he too, right, he's two things, right? He's this man, but he has wings. And then we have the Ace of Pentacles, right? The new world that's coming up, that's appearing, that I think that you can see it now. It may still be, you know, a little bit fuzzy by moonlight, but I think that you're beginning to understand what it is. What this new world is. And then we have the Six of Cups. I love this Six of Cups. This fairy tale space. That I think, right, this is where he lives, right? It's kind of a wind in the willows, 100-acre wood sort of place. Where a part of us, right, is eternally in childhood. Right, that's where magic resides. Is in childhood. In that child's view. And I think you're learning how to access that again for yourself, Taurus. That part of us gets pushed aside, tucked away, when we step out into what we think of as the adult world. And I think that something that's happening for many of us is that we're rediscovering what it is we've tucked away, what it is that wants to be released, this child's view of the world, free of cynicism. And then the Three of Pentacles, more earth. And again, in this case, right, there's this figure down here who's supporting this woman as she puts a pentacle in place, working together. All right, so your solid, reliable, gravity self and your mystical, magical, Venusian, moon-like self working together. And here in the underlying, the Ace of Cups that's been following us around, right? This grail. You know, I've been talking about not only our internal cup, right, what we want for ourselves, but also the cup that's been extended to us by our souls and our spirits. And I don't know what that cup contains for you, right? It may be a little bit different for each of us, just as our own personal grail is different for each of us. But I think that some of what's in that cup is a call to release the holding that we all have, this bracing against the world. And under that is the Four of Wands again. repeating that message of union of different parts of ourselves. And then the world again. And this time, right, it's like being, right, this shroud is being removed, this cover. Right, this world has been, you know, covered in a mist, in a misty fabric. And now it's being revealed to you. And here the Ace of Wands. This Aries new moon has appeared in every reading, often as the Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands, the Page of Wands, the Queen of Wands. This new energy arriving as the world is revealed. And this Kuan Yin, I don't think is actually about sacrifice, right? The story of Kuan Yin is that she chose to stay on Earth, right, until all humans, right, could be enlightened. Right? She took a bodhisattva vow. But I think this is about fluidity. Right? She's kind of a watery goddess. Kuan Yin, and there's this moon and sun. And again, opposites coming together. And actually that second Aries new moon is in fact an eclipse, a full eclipse. Total eclipse. So coming together of moon and sun, of masculine and feminine, of sort of external, stable, get things done energy, and the dreaming, mystical, loving self. All right, coming together. And she's also the Hanged Man in this deck, number 12. So seeing things differently. The Hanged Man is Pisces, considered Pisces energy. So on the advice front, we have the Page of Wands, this sort of new moon, new energy reappearing. And if you're not watching this when I'm recording it, you may be having some transit that is also creating a renewal. Right? We don't just have one in our lives. This one is kind of major and may show up in many, many people, but we also have them individually. And the Chariot under that. Movement. So the advice, Queen of Cups. Now she's associated with Cancer, who is ruled by the moon. So keep that moon energy, that emotional depth, that mystical view of things. Right? Taurus is not just about, right, like just solid earth. There's everything that grows out of that earth. There's the whole green world. Trees and flowers and plants and, right? Venus's garden. So don't get stuck in only one view of yourself. But I don't think that you are. I think you really are stepping out of that. And this is just a reminder to keep it up. The Fool. To keep that childlike energy. Because it is initially, right, when you're shifting from one way of being into another, there is, I think for most of us, this space of, kind of like having to practice, right? Because there's, there can be a tendency to slip back into the old way of thinking, when we're confronted by something alarming in some way. Something that, you know, upsets us, triggers us. So this is just a reminder, right, to turn back, right, to pause, take a breath, remember this Fool energy. And then to take the Pentacle, this new world, this new physical reality, this mutated, evolved, changed timeline. To accept it when it, right, now that it's arriving. And I think you will, Taurus. I think you are quite ready to accept what is coming. I think you're filled with anticipation for it, in fact. Right, you've had Uranus passing through your sign, churning up the soil. So it's ready, right? The seeds that are planted are now ready to grow. And he's going to be passing through Taurus for a little bit longer, until I think either late 2025 or early 2026, when he fully shifts into Gemini. So there may be, right, a process, right, a process of transformation that continues. New things coming up, new ideas, new people, new aspects of this world revealed, right? We're only seeing one sort of piece of it, but it's a whole globe, right, that's going to continue spinning, revealing more of itself. So take this last time, Taurus, to really feel some satisfaction for the work that you've done, and this evolution, this mutation of things. I wish you all the very best, Taurus, and I will see you next time. So long.